am telling this story on behalf of my friend Tom, who I've known since childhood, and who I consider a brother. He served with the Army for several years as an infantryman with the 1st Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. After he returned from his first combat tour in Afghanistan, he had more than a few stories to tell. However, I am immensely sad to say that we lost Tom in a car accident recently. I know, sharing a story with him on Let's Not Meet seems like a strange way to honor someone's memory. However, there is one story from his time in Afghanistan that I felt merited a submission on this board. Tom agreed. He also visited Let's Not Meet occasionally, but never quite found the time to sit down and write about his experiences. I want it noted that the details are somewhat hazy, as it has been some time since his last retelling, in addition to the obvious OPSEC concerns. In 2013, Tom's unit was deployed to Afghanistan's Kandahar province. He was a private first class at the time, and had been in the Army for a year prior to beginning the tour, with the last few months of that being assigned to the 1st Ranger Battalion. He'd gone through immensely difficult training, up to and including jumping out of several perfectly good airplanes, to get where he was now, and he was eager to finally do his job for real. He ultimately participated in 19 combat missions during his 4 months in country, all of them night raids aimed at capturing high-value targets, such as local Taliban cell commanders or other persons of interest. You see, the Rangers and other special forces specialize in nighttime operations. They train at night and operate almost exclusively under the cover of darkness. The Taliban lacked widespread night vision optics, whereas each individual ranger was equipped with some of the finest nods money could buy, and the accessories to complete them. With that advantage, on top of their large numbers and superior training, it was hard for them to not feel like they owned the night when they went out on target. However, this wasn't always the case. One night, Tom's platoon was tapped for yet another HVT night raid. After the typical briefing and preparation process, the 30 or so guys boarded the helicopters and proceeded to the target location, disembarking under the cover of darkness to secure the area. Tom was a member of a 2-man machine gun team. His team leader, Corporal Kyle, manned the 240L machine gun. As his assistant gunner, it was Tom's responsibility to make and carry spared-linked ammunition belts, call out fire adjustments, and act as a bodyguard to the corporal and his weapon should the enemy attempt to flank them. After leaving the chopper, Tom and Kyle moved forward to their designated blocking position, advantageous perch in which a fire team, usually with a machine gun, can set up and interdict enemy forces attempting to enter or leave a target area. The target in this case was a small village, seemingly abandoned and heavily deteriorated, with crumbling masonry and bombed-out huts. The entire place was incredibly unsettling, showing no life other than a single black cat that slinked amongst the shadows. The moon was high in the sky on this night, bathing the ramshackle collection of seemingly ancient structures in an eerie light. After ensuring the M240L was properly set up, Tom surveyed the village. He focused on a damaged stone wall less than 50 meters away. There was a hole punched out in the center of it, just large enough for a man to stick his head and shoulders through. He watched the hole intently for almost the entirety of the mission, infrared laser lined up, and M4A1 at the ready, expecting the barrel of an AK-47 to appear at any moment, which it never did. The rifle team proceeded into the village and searched it top to bottom, finding no trace of the HVT they were after, or any signs of life at all for that matter. Kyle and Tom packed up and relocated to link up with several members of a rifle squad in a ditch over 100 meters away from the target site. They continued to watch the perimeter as discussions were being had about where to go from here. That's when all hell broke loose. One of the platoon's senior sergeants came running over, yelling at Tom and the other rangers to get the fuck out of the ditch. The comms net exploded with orders to fall back to the LZ for immediate extraction. Tom and Kyle were understandably confused. Had EOD picked up on something? Maybe they were standing atop a buried IED belt, which was far from unheard of. The Chinooks double-timed it back to their location and landed very quickly, allowing all of the Rangers to board. After a final head count to ensure that no one had been left behind, the helicopters lifted off and returned to the airfield. The mission had lasted less than an hour, seemingly ending as soon as it had begun, all without a single shot being fired, and no contact with the Taliban. Or so Tom thought. After returning to base, the platoon was debriefed, and the reason for the sudden scrub of the mission became very clear. Shortly after Tom and Kyle had posted up in the ditch, signals collection specialists attached to the Rangers had picked up enemy radio chatter in the vicinity of the assault force. Very clearly and calmly, the Taliban had spoken. There are 6 men in the ditch. 2 of them are manning a machine gun on the leftmost edge. They are facing the northwest. You can flank them if you follow the berm. They proceeded to list a multitude of details about the assault force and their positions. They were stalking the Rangers, hunting the hunters. Based on the chatter, it was clear that an unknown number of insurgents were setting up a potentially deadly ambush. Other than the intercepted broadcast, the Rangers had been completely unaware of their presence. None of the men on the ground had seen any indication of enemy activity. The trained canines hadn't even picked up any sense. The drones and armed close air support craft overhead didn't see a damn thing, even with FLIR, thermal vision. Yet the Taliban were listing fine, meticulous details about the Rangers, as if they were standing directly next to them in the darkness, all despite the presumable lack of night vision optics. It was a humbling experience for the entire platoon. For Tom, that mission always sent a shiver up his spine when he would think about it, even though later operations during the same deployment involved full-scale firefights and ambushes. This happened about a year ago. I work at a pet store where we adopt out cats from local shelters. They aren't our cats. We are an intermediary to help them get seen and hopefully adopted. We follow the interview and application processes set out by the various shelters in order to determine whether or not to adopt to a person. The application process often includes of contacting the landlord to ensure that it is fine for that person to have cats on their property. One afternoon, a youngish man came into the store, maybe in his late 20s, and walked back to the adoption center. He was thin, maybe a little dirty looking, but there was nothing too remarkable about his appearance. When he reached the cats, without even looking at them, he turned to my manager and said, "I'll take that one and that one." He pointed at Fluffers and Delmonico, a cat and a kitten from 2 different shelters located in 2 different cages. Fluffers clearly had a sign on her cage saying that she was approved for adoption, so my manager said, well, Fluffers is spoken for, but we can still have a visit with Delmonico." She went into the little visitation room with the guy, and I walked away, glad that I had dodged the bullet of helping out that particular guy. He just rubbed me the wrong way. A few minutes later, my manager came to get me. She asked me to go talk to the guy to see what I thought, because in her words, he just seemed a little off. We take the responsibility of making sure our cats go to good homes very seriously, so I sighed and agreed. When I went into the visitation room, the guy was sitting on the bench with Delmonico clutched in his arms, just staring at the wall. The kitten was squirming a lot. He seemed okay, but he really didn't seem to want to be held by this guy. I introduced myself and asked if he was interested in maybe adopting Delmonico. The guy replied yes, and that he would take him. I then informed him, "There is a 2-page application to fill out before you can be approved, and if you rent, we'll need your landlord's number so we can make sure that it's okay you adopt a cat." He didn't respond, so I asked, "Did you want to fill out the application?" He said, "What application?" He was still holding the kitten, who clearly wanted away from him, and he turned to me, and I saw his pupils were huge and black. His irises were barely visible. I noticed his leg was twitching, like he could barely sit still. I felt my palms get sweaty, and I explained the application process again, adding that it could take 24 to 72 hours to process everything. He focused on me and said, "I can't take him today." I wanted the kittens out of his arms, so I said, "Well, let's go fill out the app, and we'll see what we can do." He replied, shouting out of nowhere, "Jesus fucking Christ! Okay, give me the goddamn paper." I wordlessly handed him a clipboard with the application on it. He let go of Delmonico, who I immediately scooped up. I could feel the guy's heat on the kitten's fur, which severely disturbed me for some reason. I clutched the kitten to my chest and waited for him to be done. Other than the one outburst, he had been mostly polite, so my retail training wouldn't yet allow me to ask him to leave. He's sitting there staring at the application, so trying to hurry him up, I say, "We just need you to fill it out and we can get the ball rolling." He replies, I just can't wrap my head around the fact that you need this information. This is crazy." So I say, "It's what the shelter requires." He begins to write the word fuck in all the spaces on the application. My palms start sweating, the kitten is still in my arms with his head against my chest, and I'm trying to decide what to do, when he suddenly looks at me and yells, "This is bullshit. This system is bullshit. All the cats will die without getting adopted with this system." I had a pretty good rush of adrenaline going at this point, but my inherently polite retail persona still wouldn't let me ask him to leave. So instead, I told him that we typically find homes for about a dozen homeless cats each week using the applications. He stared at me for a second and put his hands on the side of his head. He then rocked back and forth for a moment, and then met my eyes and said, very, very clearly, "You have a mind like a Babylonian orgasm. I'm leaving." For a second, I felt like maybe I was the crazy one. Like maybe that sentence made sense, and I was unable to understand it. As I ran it through my head, trying to figure out what he meant, he got up, slammed the door to the visitation room open, and stomped out of the store. Delmonico was unharmed, and as I put him back in his kennel, my manager approached me, her eyes wide. I showed her the application on which the word fuck appeared numerous times, and told her, "I don't think we should adopt to him." If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you can catch all of my future content. Also make sure you're subscribed to my other channel, Fear Your Maker. This weekend I'll be uploading a couple videos out on that channel as well. One of the videos will be a viewer submission video, but the other one I haven't decided what I want to do yet. So if you have any suggestions on something you might want to see, leave it down below in the comments. I could also use your help on something. Early this next month, I hope to upgrade my equipment, so that should give a huge boost to my quality. I'm trying to work on a collaboration with Mr. Nightmare, but getting him to notice me is a little difficult. I think it's more or less the fact that I'm commenting asking if he wants to collaborate, and I'm sure he gets thousands of those. It would mean a little more if you guys brought my name up in the comments section on his videos. I think it would catch his eye a little more, coming from other people rather than just me. And I know he's been saying he's opening up to the idea of a collaboration, and I really think that would be awesome. And by the sounds of it, a lot of you guys do as well. And by then, I'll have new equipment, so my quality should be on the same level, or pretty damn close. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and once again, I really appreciate your support. And I'll see you back here next week. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.